If you are new to chicken keeping, you're going to want to watch this video. And if you know somebody who's new to chicken keeping, you're going to want to send them this video because I'm going to share with you one of the #1 illnesses that we see in baby chicks, which also happens to be the #1 killer of baby chicks in my opinion. And I'll also share with you how we fix it. If you're watching this and you're a veteran chicken keeper, and as I was talking about that, you said, oh, I know what that is. That's Coccidia. You're absolutely right. In my experience, outside of predators are probably the #1 of chickens, baby chicks included. But when it comes to illness specifically in baby chicks, Coccidia is the #1 and it takes them out the quickest. And really, I also feel like it's one of the easier ones to diagnose and definitely the easier ones to treat. Coccidia is a protozoan parasite. It is actually a parasite that's normally pretty naturally present in the gastrointestinal tract of most baby animals in general. I've actually dealt with it in my goats, I've dealt with it in dogs, I've dealt with it in cats, but we see it really often in chickens too. It's often present in the soil because animals leave feces around and the parasite sheds, and so our animals can pick it up that way as well. In general, and what we hope for is that the chicks build up natural immunities over time to the parasite, and in that case we don't necessarily see any negative consequences. But there are scenarios or birds with weakened immune system, or for whatever reason there are some birds who build up an overload of this parasite and we see negative consequences in those birds. The most severe consequence that we will see, and the most easily recognizable consequence that we will see, is blood in the feces. And I'm talking like red runny blood. I'm talking if you were to put it in water, it would like dissipate. I'm not talking about like gel like orange substance, okay? Blood is different than intestinal lining shedding. By the time we see blood in the feces, birds need to be treated immediately. But sometimes before they start shedding blood in the feces, you will start to notice that the birds are like lethargic, they're not eating and drinking as much, they're huddling off alone like to the side of the brooder or wherever they're living. Oftentimes they have sort of like a puffed up stance, like their neck's low. I call it a vulture stance. I feel like they look like little vultures. But in my experience, I have a bird who's under, I would say 16 weeks of age, because again, as the birds are aging, hopefully they have gained natural immunity to Coccidia and we won't see negative consequences and death from it. So I would say in birds under 16 weeks of age, if I start to notice these symptoms in them, even before I see the bloody stool, I will immediately treat with Corid, because it's one of those things where it could absolutely do more harm to not treat if they actually do need the treatment than to treat when they actually don't need the treatment. And I mean, of course, like there's probably examples on both sides of the aisle. The way that Corid works, the active ingredient is called amprolium. It is also the same active ingredient in medicated feed. So that's another thing to note. If you are feeding your birds medicated feed, which I personally choose not to, I want them to build natural immunities and I want to treat when necessary. But the active ingredient in medicated feed is amprolium. That's it. So the only thing that medicated feed is medicating for potentially medicating for is Coccidia, not any other kind of illness or infection in your birds. In the event that you feel that you need to treat your birds for Coccidia, we want to cut out the medicated feed and solely treat with Corid. The way that amprolium works is by blocking B vitamins, and so we don't want to be giving any additional vitamins or like Corid and the medicated feed during the treatment. While we're treating with Corid, we want that water source to be the only water source that they have access to, and you want to make it fresh daily. The other thing is, just like antibiotics in humans, even though the birds are probably going to start to show improvement rather quickly, you want to make sure that you run the entire course of the treatment. I will put a screenshot of the reference chart that I use at the end of this video for like a couple seconds so you can screenshot it as well. But basically, there is a severe and a moderate dose, okay? The severe dose is what I would use if I was seeing symptoms in the bird. And there's like you treat with one dosage for 5 to 7 days, and then you treat with a lower dosage for another 5 to 7 days. So what I'm saying is run those entire courses of treatments even once you start to see improvement in the birds. The moderate dose I would use if I felt like I needed to treat birds preventatively, which I really try not to do at this point in my vlogs because I've been working for years to try and build a little bit of resistance. Last year, I didn't treat birds for Coccidia, knock on wood. There are certain times of the year and certain environmental factors, like Coccidia thrives in warm, moist environments. So like next month, when it's like we're in rainy season here in Florida and it's hot already, that might be a time where I may consider, where I would, if I were going to consider treating preventatively, that might be the time of year where I would consider treating preventatively. In general, what I would do is take my chicks, put them on the soil, keep an eye on them for like the first 1 week to 2 weeks. You probably wouldn't start to notice right away. It would take them a little bit of time for the coccidia to build up in their system once they had been on the soil. One thing that I've heard that like OG breeders will do to help their chicks build up a resistance is some of them will actually go out to their chicken yard and get a little bit of soil and put the soil in the brooder with the chicks to introduce their chicks to the soil and the things that are in the soil in small doses so that their immune system can begin to build up before they move the chicks actually outside. I don't actually have any experience with that myself, but it makes sense. I mean, it seems like a really rational thing to do, in my opinion. Corid is one of these medications that I believe everybody should have on hand in their chicken keeping medicine cabinet, especially when they're working with chicks. I personally have never seen coccidia in a hen over about 16 weeks of age. I've never seen it in an older bird. I have heard people say that they got necropsies done on birds or whatever, and they had really high coccidia loads. I've never dealt, I'm sure it happens, everything happens, right? But I have never seen it on my farm. The other thing is, I have also never dealt with coccidia in chicks who were hatched from hens, and specifically I'm talking about eggs that were laid on my farm and then brooded by my broody hens. I have never dealt with coccidia in those birds, and I believe, again, it's because they have natural immunities from their parent stock, and because as those embryos are developing in the eggs underneath the broody hen in the soil, they are also picking up natural immunities. So just food for thought.